Hi, this is Jags again, and we're back with part 2 of my Legend of Zelda talkthrough. So let's kick it off straight away. So we're in Vah Naboris. Probably the most difficult dungeon, I think, generally speaking. Both the boss is the hardest. It's got some of the most intricate puzzles in it, I would say. It was casual playthroughs. It was always the one I used to go to last for the few times I've played through this game casually. But for the speedrun, we actually want to get there pretty quickly. A, the lightning ability is very handy for the last two areas, but B, because it's so close comparatively to the other two. So there's a couple of different routes we can use in this dungeon. The route I use is we go in, and very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, I'm going to jump up and get the terminal at the very top. Up here, carefully.
I thought I was going to mess that up then. I was like, oh, no.
At the very back right here, we do need to activate the main map terminal on this one to be able to rotate the body, because we need to be able to do a few things in there. So we'll go do that now. And then there's a couple of terminals that are on top, and we're going to basically clear all those. So yes, the way about it, you get 4 rotations per section, and you have to rotate them in specific ways to set off the electricity channel to power certain parts of the dungeon. So you don't need to do too much. So the first one we're going to move is we need to move the channels around so we can get outside. Because we're going to use a BIL to get to the top of the dungeon. Actually, I messed it up here and I accidentally did one too many rotations, I believe. Because I wanted to try and reach it by climbing and realised I couldn't.
Oh, for flip's sake.
Flip's sake.
Okay. That's not good.
And normally you would just walk out and hit it straight out.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah, so slight mistake on my part here. I should have just gone up and gone straight round. Because didn't think about it. Yes, outside, we're going to use some BILs to get up to the top of the dungeon. So that was an example of what happens when you do a BIL and you've got too much lag. The game just eats the input. So I did another one to get back up to here. So I need to get right up to the very top of the dungeon.
No.
I think this is. I think I end up losing 2 minutes on this split. That's what I essentially want to do, is get up here. For the two, I'm going to say humps in big quotation marks. I want to get into the first one. Yeah, it was too low again. So go up again. Yeah, much too late. So yeah, doing the dungeons, it could be really bad for that. I end up using Rivali's Gale to just shimmy up. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to use those electricity balls to trigger switches. But what I'm actually going to use is you can use a shock arrow, and it'll give you just enough time to slip through the gates. So here, you'll see me switch over, spark it, go through, and then I'm going to jump over it. You're supposed to solve like a puzzle by bringing both the electricity balls down, put them on 2 terminals to open that gate.
Thank you.
But they left a gap at the top of it, so you can just... There's 2 ways. You can either use a bomb impact launch off the edge of one of the pillars, or you could just use Rivali's Gale to jump over. It's much easier to use Rivali's Gale. So here, you need to move these wheels across to put power to both sides, and that will power the neck, and that'll go up, and then you can use that to get up to the one terminal. There's ways around this, but I found they can be quite fiddly compared to just doing it normally. Twiddle that bad boy around. There we go. You see, get a little cutscene now where this goes up.
I'm fuming. Legit annoyed. That was a very sequence of unfortunate events that I just cannot figure out why it happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, we gotta stand around and wait a bit here to get up to the top. But then we've already done most of the terminals, so you do this one. There's one terminal that is in a really, really, like, it's not difficult to get into, but it's a really awkward place. Because you have to turn the Divine Beast's one body part section around a few times, which is very annoying. So I'm just going to sail down. Jump in here. You need to move it once, and then around again. And the reason I moved the center section is that the terminal to finish the dungeon is actually upside down, and I need to put it the right way up so I can actually fight the final dungeon boss. First of all, I need to twiddle this round. Again, you can do a really weird angle skew to get out of this, but if you don't have a shield at like high durability, it can be a bit risky because you need the shield for some other parts. So I know this dungeon boss is the one most people had issues with. I know I did a master mode playthrough that I actually recorded that I had a lot of issues with for this. So I'm going to set myself up. I'm going to eat my meal, my strong boy meal. So the first thing is you've got a 50-50 chance of whether the boss attacks you or throws lightning. In this case it threw lightning, but because I got a wooden shield I can just absorb it. Again, a 50-50 chance, and you're just waiting for him to come at you. You want to get...
3? You've got to be kidding me. Wow.
3. Very unlucky. You want to get a perfect dodge. I didn't, but that doesn't really matter because you want to hit him 3 times, and then knock him to the ground, and then utilize bullet time and ancient arrows to just wallop on him, do a bunch of damage.
You've got to be kidding me.
So with that done, the second part, and I know this is the part I really struggled with, you have to use Magnesis to lift up a metal rune and hold it next to him. Grabbing one can be a bit difficult, and quite often he gets mistimed. This one was very lucky, and then where he falls can be really difficult as well. So in this circumstance I was quite lucky, but if he falls on a higher platform, for example, it'll then come after you and it won't do the metal spike thing again, and you have to basically either get a perfect parry or run away from it. I've lost a few runs that way, funnily enough.
I was ahead for so long.
But it can be
so
it can be a bit tricky, and
such
definitely in master mode I had issues with it. Having all the fairies and stuff now, it makes it a bit easier, and a bit of practice. You know, it's been a few runs I've done it now, a good like 20 or 30 times I've done it. So we leave the desert now, and we now need to head over to Goron City as the next one, which is quite a way across the map. If you're not familiar, the desert is in the bottom left. I want to travel basically all the way to the top right of the map, so as you can see here, that's where I'm actually going to warp to where now Vah Naboris is. 2 reasons: A, it's slightly closer, but B, more importantly, it's much further up. Because Death Mountain is actually quite high up on the map, and you have to climb it as well to get even further up. So I'm going to go to Vah Naboris, which is one of the highest points on the map already, and I'm going to use that rock where the heart container is on to do a BLSS. So the other thing I need to do there is A, I need to make sure bomb arrows are not equipped, and B, I need to make sure I have a good shield, a good bow equipped that won't catch fire. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to destroy Rivali's bow. So I actually use a different bow to make sure that I don't lose it. Because it'll just catch fire, and because I'm doing BLSS, I can't let go. So you can see Death Mountain in the distance, so I have to cross basically the entire map with a single BLSS. And bear in mind again, any single input that I go neutral on the control stick can cause me to drop the BLSS at any point during this, and I have to warp all the way back. And if I hit the speed cap, I'll lose all my speed and I've got to start again.
Will never go well. I'm always going to be like really sloppy or messy or make stupid mistakes somewhere.
Very much wisdom. So yes,
I think I'm too close.
this entire BLSS, I think the entire section takes between 1.5 and 2 minutes, which it's slow in the run, but compared to normal crossing the map, like how long did it take to cross the map when you're playing the game vanilla, and how much would you have done compared to in the run where we just zip, zoop, zap across it. So we're actually going to cross the map so quickly that quite a lot of Death Mountain won't have loaded in, which we'll see when we get a bit closer. But one thing to remember as well is I'm going to catch on fire. But because I have so many fairies, I could ignore that. I won't buy any heat protection. I will just run through the area. But because there's so much lava and stuff, A, the area takes ages to load in, but B, there's also a lot of lag. So a lot of the glitches that rely on not getting copped out by lag tend to fail in this area unless you're really careful. As you can see, quite a lot of the bridge hasn't loaded in, for example. So I'm going to land as close to Goron Village, Goron City, as I can. The game's going to stop and load. It's flat out just not having any of my nonsense. Because it's and yeah, and all the textures get messed up as well, which is not ideal. So we'll clear this. Bear in mind as well, we don't actually do the Goron. We only do half the Goron City quest now. We actually wait and do the other half much later on. For reasons that I'll explain a bit closer to the time. I got hit by it. And you can see again, like you can see my health's going down, but I have so many fairies it won't really make a difference. So we need to get Uniboro, and basically we need to set him up ready to do the Death Mountain Escort quest, which is probably the worst part of the run, I think, because it's so slow. So we need to talk to this guy and trigger the quest.
I can see the lag happening.
So yeah, here the lag is causing a problem because I'm on fire as well, which also causes lag. So I need to pointing down there to deload all the lava will help a lot. And here I'm going to do a BLSS again to get over to where Yernaboro is. But I need to be really quick there because I don't want to burn up my shield. So there is something here is I don't think it comes up in this run, but it is possible. Is you can get over to the cave so quickly that it actually doesn't load the entrance. You could just walk in. I don't get it in this run. You can see me actually look and try it.
No!
Yeah, I was like just short of enough time, so I have to use the cannon to open it up. You can use a skew again to get in, but you need to get it's double frame perfect, which can be a bit difficult to get. Where it's just dropping the bomb and try and save as much time by running over whilst it's firing. So yeah, we now have Uniboro. So the lag situation can cause a lot of issues, but it also causes one really helpful thing to happen, which is utilized now, is that the bomb impact launches, too much lag will cause it to fail, but just enough lag actually makes the BIL quicker than normal. So here, my BIL is actually slightly quicker. I might actually do a BLSS over. Yeah, I do a BLSS over. Just slightly more accurate to aim. And because when you use a BLSS and you hit a collision, you just bounce straight off. So I tried to use that to turn myself back round and head straight back towards Goron Village. Goron City, it's not a village. Well, it's not very big for a city, but still. So I'm going to head straight over, trigger the start of the escort quest. So basically, they're going to tell me to go find Uniboro. But I'm not actually going to do the escort yet. Because it's quicker to BLSS over to Goron City from Vah Naboris, but it's actually quicker to go do Vah Ruta now from here and then come back, because it's not really much of a difference really. But when we go up and just before you start the escort quest, there's a shrine right at the edge. And what we do is we actually BLSS from about where that shrine is over to Vah Ruta, because that's the closest point we're going to get to the Zora city. But then we walk back to the shrine, because otherwise we'd have to finish the escort quest, come all the way down to Goron Village, and then BLSS is over. Which doesn't sound too bad. But then, to do the castle, it's actually quicker to go from Goron City, so we'd have to walk back here anyway. So in order to save time, we're going to do Vah Ruta now. Gotta be careful of my lag again. I think I got no, we're fine. And it's even worse here because there's way more lava. I'm actually going to do Vah Ruta, because then when we come back and do Ganon and go to the castle, it's actually way quicker to go from Goron City. So it's slightly quicker to get to Vah Ruta, and it's a lot quicker to get to the thing. And it actually, if you do Master Sword and Dungeons, we actually go straight to the forest from there, because the mountain to get the Master Sword is only a 5-minute detour. Everyone who does a Master Sword and Dungeons run always does all dungeons, and if they fail it, go for the Master Sword afterwards. So there I use the BLSS just to get a bunch of hype. And I need to find this bit of texture is really difficult to get BLSS off. And I've got to be really careful not to hit that rock, because otherwise I'll lose all my speed and I could just drop. I don't know how many fairies I used there. Probably a good 20 or so. But now we're going to go over to Vah Ruta and clear out. This is the most cutscene heavy section. It's supposed to be the first dungeon you do. And that's pretty evident from how heavy all the cutscene stuff is, and how much they really try to get you to pay attention and learn about the lore of the game. And it tells you oh, this is what you were 100 years ago. You see the area's not loaded in correctly, as is usual. I'm just traveling much too quick. It's amazing, really, that you can travel this quick and the only issue you get is some textures not loading in. The fact that the game actually copes with it is actually quite impressive. You see the nice low poly textures. As well, I got you here so quick, the Sidon doesn't actually load in correctly. And if you look in this cutscene now, he's going to be a bit off kilter, so he'll talk to Sidon and he'll be let me just do off edge. He'll actually be like this on the camera, which is quite funny. Not quite yet. Ho ho! So yes, unfortunately, this section, but essentially, if you don't know the story, I can't imagine why you wouldn't, but they all remember Link from 100 years ago, and they basically blame him for Mipha dying, which is a bit unfair, I think. Although, you know, you did fail 100 years ago, I guess, but not really your fault.
Come on.
Yes, so we have to do,
I
it
should be
takes
able
a
to make
long
this one
time,
back,
so
I guess.
we don't enter Vah Ruta for
It
another
was a minute,
7
right?
minutes or so, and only
20
about a
still.
minute and a half of that to
Still.
2 minutes is actually doing the entry. The rest is all messing about with talking to characters and going back and forth and skipping cutscenes. Which, if you're watching this for a marathon submission, is a great time for donations. Just saying. Wink. I can't wink. It blinks. Blink? Double wink. That's right, it's a double wink. It's extra winky.
I'm concentrating now. I am in full concentration mode.
Yeah, there we go. Silence just completely, like, the camera just doesn't know what to do with him. Because I presume it's something to do with not loading the area correctly. So we now need to put this bit of armor on, so we don't have the nearly bare chest anymore. It's not a great look, I won't lie. It used to be even worse because you used to have to buy an item of the
my back upright correctly.
you have to buy the heat resistance armor as well, so you'd have like a combination of all three from all three areas. So in this section by here, they basically suggest that you need to get shock arrows. But luckily enough, here's one I made earlier. You have already bought 30 in Gerudo Town. That's another reason why we do Gerudo Town early. If we came here first, which we could do from Rito Village, you could do Goron City, then do all this stuff first. But apart from losing the lightning power, you still wouldn't have the shock arrows, and you can only get the shock arrows from Gerudo Village. Gerudo City, whatever. There's no other place. Either I think you can buy them down by the coast, possibly. But yeah, there's no other really good convenient places to get it. And obviously going up to the Lionel Peak to collect them one at a time is a bit too slow. It's way more efficient to do the Gerudo City and get them first. So, we talked about the lava causing lag. But this rain also causes an enormous amount of lag, which is another reason why fixing the weather for the rest of the map is actually really important, because anytime we encounter rain, thunder and lightning is even worse again, but anytime we encounter rain, we're going to cause the game to lag, which means BLSs is less likely to work. So there are some categories where we do actually need to start off the time. 100% is probably the biggest one, because we definitely need time in there. Stuff like all quests, all dog rewards, they all need to start off the weather. And in those runs, you can lose time very easily to the weather just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the rain causing lag and needing to do like countermeasures to stop it.
Cutscenes.
Like zooming in and looking down to deload assets, stuff like that, and having to just like in some cases just be lucky and like just get it second or third time, unfortunately. So yeah, last time I did a casual playthrough of this game, I used BLSs and BILs literally everywhere. Just an overview again. BLS's bow lift smuggle slide is the one with the bombs in my hand and I have to wiggle. BIL is this, where I use 2 bombs to jump forward. So you can see the lag there already, but the nice thing about that bit of lag there is I had just enough lag to give me a nice big lift. So I'm actually going to head over this really specific bit of rock here. So you do one launch to get up to here, and you do the other one to get up, over, and on top of the gate to do the entry to the dungeon. So bear in mind, that entire section was nearly a 7-minute split of just cutscenes and talking to people. So in terms of like, if that was all cutscened and you could skip it rather than have to sit and look through it, much like with the ones in Gerudo City, I think you could probably save like 15 minutes this run if they actually didn't make you watch cutscenes, which is cruel and kind of unnecessary, but they do the same in Tears of the Kingdom because you have to watch the opening cutscene. You don't have a choice, which is cruel of them. So yes, this dungeon entry, You have to go up the waterfalls and use shock arrows on 4 gem points or switch points on top of the back of the elephant. So in the air you can hit more than one, but the game only lets you go in bullet time for one of them. Once you've done the first one, the game won't let you bullet time again. So first of all we need to knock these down. So I'm actually going to switch my stuff up because the duplex bow shoots straighter, so I want the angles for it. Oh, I will like go in bullet time, but you lose so much stamina that it can be quite difficult. I'm misremembering stuff now. Yep, so we need to hit these. So the one problematic part about doing it so quickly, it can actually be quite a curse, is that I'm on the wrong side really. So I've hit these two already, and I need to go over the other side, and I'm going to lose stamina sailing over, and then I'm going to lose stamina going into bullet time for this. So I'm going to have to be really quick. I actually missed one.
No!
So I actually have to do 3 there. So if you're close enough, you can get those, but Sidon actually takes you out of range, so you have to wait for them.
Hey, okay.
So we'll head up again.
Missed that shot.
And now we have more mandatory cutscenes. We have to watch to go in.
Honestly, today's been a fucking disaster, frankly. This is the first run that got past the half-hour mark out of 5. And after being ahead for so long, I am now about a minute and a half behind.
So yes, we have to watch this cutscene, very unfortunately. But that's okay, because it's Sidon, and we like Sidon. So this dungeon is probably one of the simplest ones, but also has, in terms of like where all the switches are, but also the trick for this one is you have to move the snout, and it'll pour water in different ways. So we need to aim the water where we want to go. And we need to, sometimes we can set up the water spout early for something we need to do. So the first one is really easy. We're just going to run up, grab it straight away. There is actually a little bit of tomfoolery, because the water spout actually, the magnesis, moving it with the motion controls can be really jittery. It really doesn't feel very good. I don't really know why it's so poor. It's just this one section, but trying to twiddle it, you have to like have these really exaggerated movements to get it to like come up correctly. And as for the one time, I think cryonis is actually completely necessary here. I don't think you can get into this gate without it. Otherwise, I think it's just, this is the only time I think I might use it once more to get like a good platform to BLL off. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy this eye. And destroy this guy. And then I'm going to use Magnesis to turn this thing around. Yeah, see, it's like really big exaggerated movements. Trigger the first one. And then we need to go get the map for this one again. Because we need to be able to move the water. And I'm going to set one up by there. So I need to get up to the very top next. This is my very next challenge. I need to get all the way up to the very top of the elephant to get the shrine. There's one on the very tip of the snoot. And you can only get it when the snoot's in the upright position. So you've got 2 options. You either have to stand on the snoot and wait, which is what I imagine most people did in casual runs. Or I can use BIL to get up there a lot quicker and trigger the shrine, but then put it ready in a position for the next one, which is going to be the quickest option for me. which is why I've got that one Cryonis platform there. I'm going to go up from there and then BIL over. So I'm now going to put this snout in a position ready for me to get the shrine that's on top of it.
Oops.
I'm going to shoot this guy, just because he can mess up your the BIL if he shoots you, and he can hit you off the edge. Because you also need to be really careful of the lag here again, because the waterfall will cause lag. But that was excellent. And then we do the second one from like over here because it's a lot safer. You can go to the back of the elephant and do one, but I tend to find from here you've got like a much better chance of disaster recovery essentially. But now I have enough height, I can just trigger this platform straight away. And then I'm going to move the snout back slightly because there's like a really thin hole in the head of the elephant. Unfortunately, you can't aim the terminal and do both at the same time. So you need to shoot this guy and open up with another one of these Twiddly Magnesis puzzles. And then there's two water wheels in the center of the elephant, and what you're going to see is you're going to see me start moving the trunk over there now. Ready?
No.
Yeah, so slight mistake there, I missed the platform. You can see the way that I timed that originally is you hit the... you're supposed to be able to... What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to stasis the ball so it stays inside, stays up, and then the gate stays open so you can reach it. So when that ball goes down, it opens the gate.
Oh, stupid.
You can also jump down from here and just step into the gate, but there's spikes at the top of it. So I'll wait for this to come down. And then trigger this. And then the last one, you need to stop this water flow so that, and it'll make the pool go down a bit. And that means I can trigger this shrine. Or terminal. And then we need to face it. Now this boss is the one that's the slowest to kill out of all of them, which is weird for the first dungeon. So what I'm going to do here is trigger this bit of water up. And then stand on this platform and then do a shield surf jump. Actually gains a little bit of height, so I'll use that to get up rather than use Rivali's Gale. And that lets me drop straight into the boss chamber. So now I'm going to use Cryonis again. So I'm going to hit him twice normally, and then I'm going to go into time, because this boss takes the least damage of any boss for some reason that I'm not really sure of. And if you do it all in one bullet time, you won't actually kill him in one shot. So you need to fire a shot first and then go into bullet time. And then when he does this with the water, go on the platforms. You can't jump forward into the water and do bullet time. You need to jump onto a platform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into bullet time here and then jump backwards off the platform. But first one, I'm going to hit him once and then go into bullet time. I did miss him, but... And then I missed him, which is unfortunate, but that would have been a 2-cycle there. You can see here, to do that I could have jumped backwards off to land it, go over the platform, and that would have put me into bullet time.
Falling down, but a really good boss fight, so...
So actually here, PB-wise, I ended up 2 minutes ahead because I actually got a near gold on this section, and I lost even more time than the run before. But well, it's definitely like got too many sneaky little tricks that can definitely cause issues.
Alas, I am a moron.
So now we get this dungeon done, and now we're going to walk back into Vah Rudania. So I activated the shrine already. So first of all, I need to make sure that my bow isn't wooden, since we do need a metal bow for this section. It's actually we basically don't use up any bows, with the exception, I think, of the I think occasionally you can use a Bravali's bow by accident in the final boss fight, but it's not common. But you can use Bravali's one in the very final boss fight against Big Pig. So here I'm going to once again use a BIL to get up to go towards where Uniboro is. Also, very weirdly, I need to actually make sure I actually catch fire before I do a BIL. Because if you catch fire on the process of setting up a BIL, the game will get ultra lag and you'll always fail it. So you need to make sure you are on fire. So the nice thing about Ancient Arrows is they insta-kill enemies. So I'm going to utilize that here to just destroy those two. And now we get everyone's favourite bit, the escort quest. So one thing that really speeds this up, and I wasn't aware of it till much later on, is the Ancient Arrows actually one-shot the robots that Vah Rudania. Rudania?
I just gotta play well for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So all I gotta
Vah Rudania, the robots Vah Rudania sends out are actually insta-killed by Ancient Arrows. You can't really kill them easily with other ones. So in previous runs, before we duped a bunch of Ancient Arrows, you have to do this quest properly where you take a Uniboro through. But now, so I'm going to do a BIL to try and... Yeah, that's what happens. If the angle's slightly off, you get like just a straight dead angle. You need to have... It needs to be one of the perfect 8 directions. It either needs to be dead on like northeast, northwest, or straight away. Straight directions. You can go away with slight wiggle room in the cardinal directions. You can go like slight off north. But if you're using the corner of a bomb, you have to be very precise, or it will just go dead arrow. And the same can happen because of the lag as well. So it can be very, very tricky to get accurate. So the escort quest is sped up a lot by being able to just destroy these robots. Unfortunately, you need good aim, which can cause some issues. And you can lose some time to just missing shots, especially because we tried to just like run through, so we never really slow down Uniboro apart from at the very end normally. And memorizing this bit in different languages was always interesting. As the thing is, I'm not actually actively running here. A, because you'll leave Uniboro behind, but B, is it actually times it well with this robot guy. So yeah, there's the first one. Especially because the only bow that we're allowed to use is the soldier's bow, and the soldier's bow isn't that accurate comparative to like, say, the duplex bow, which is significantly easier to aim. So there, the issue I had was actually caused by the stutter caused by being on fire.
doesn't particularly like that, I don't think.
Yeah, because the game is particularly designed for you to be on fire for very long, let alone a good like 8-minute sequence like this. So we need to fire at the big lizard boy, who doesn't like that one bit. So again, I think this one is actually quite difficult to aim for. Normally you have to go up and destroy them with metal containers and like drop metal containers on them to destroy them to get Uniboro past. But obviously here I'm just gonna run up and fire arrows at them. So it becomes less of an escort quest and more of a walk kind of slowly, be on fire and learn how to shoot arrows quest, which is not quite a same catchy title. I'm quite that Tears of the Kingdom isn't quite so severe for these. I can't remember if there's an escort quest in that game. I don't think there is. So again, Moblin no more. And if you fire that too soon, you'll just miss the enemy. So you need to make sure you're waiting a little bit, so you do lose like a little bit of just twiddling your thumbs waiting for the cannon to turn.
Yeah.
So the last one, there's some guys flying around in circles, which makes it even more difficult to aim. Why would you want it to be easy? So instead I'm just gonna bullet time them both. It's like a little gear floating in the air. And again, these three. You need to be really careful about Uniboro here because he could creep forward and get triggered by one of these guys. So I think I stop him before I get to the one. Yeah. So stop him there just to make sure he doesn't wander into the firing line. And if you leave him behind and he goes too far back, you have to like wander close to whistle him as well. So now we get to enter the dungeon. Probably one of my favourite dungeons, actually. I think, for this game, certainly. It's not one of the best dungeon designs of the series, but I think this one's got some of the coolest little sections to it, like how you get some of the terminals. And it starts with the dungeon being in complete darkness, which is kind of cool. We can still do some stuff to set up, like you can get one of the terminals, and we can set up to get a second one as well, whilst it's still dark, and then we'll just very quickly like run back through. So again, not a particularly long one. See, I don't know why they made this dungeon a lot more elaborate, I think, in terms of like having the theme where it goes dark and you have to unlock it and open it up again. I don't really know why they didn't repeat that with any of the other ones where they didn't like have it set up in a specific way and you have to go part of the way through it to open it up a bit more. I always feel a bit like these dungeons were a bit underwhelming. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my bomb arrows. To do that, first of all, I need to get the terminal that's through here, and using the bomb arrows blows the doors open. And the other one was to open up a metal crate, which I need to use to get a second terminal. Now I need to use these blue arrow flames. So what I'm going to do here is the smuggle state can have you hold a weapon and do stuff like run at the same time. By basically holding your bow and the weapon, bomb and the weapon at the same time. So I'm going to do that so I can whistle and run over. I also need to destroy that, so that I can actually get to the terminals. And doing that means I can just run with the flame rather than have to carry it. The only other option is you can use an arrow to shoot to the torch, but you have to do it blind, which can be quite tricky. And running with the arrow does give you running with the flame does give you the option as well as just clearing stuff on the way at the same time. So now we have the map, and we already have one terminal set up and 2 more ready to go. I think it's quite a theme to have, apart from the first dungeon, to have one terminal, then do the map, then you're allowed to get the rest of them.
I need to make sure I switch from bomb arrows before I blow myself in.
So here, there's a flame arrow we need to get this quite high up. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to carry the blue torches back down and carry it up and round. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use Revali's Gale, head up, destroy that one so that it frees up the terminal there, and then fly around and just put the flame straight to this terminal. Rather than do the thing where I have to carry the flame up slowly. So it's quite a cool little bit of tech. And then I can convert the dungeon around to reach this terminal. And this gap is actually a little big, so what I need to do is I need to do a shield jump to reach the edge of the platform. And you can see my bow's still on fire, but I don't really need it for the rest of the run. Then this little gate blocks the ball going through, so that'll open that one terminal up.
Whoops.
And at this door, you're supposed to shoot an arrow through the door. You see, I actually missed the blowing that up first of all. But these little eye ones are actually, the collision on them isn't great. So first of all, you need to move the metal object in front of you, and then you can actually crouch and walk through the little eye section rather than opening it up, which is quite handy. Just like that. The only other thing about this dungeon is this probably one of the most intensive in terms of like having to switch back and forth a lot, which is cool. It actually utilizes it a lot better. Like I think Vah Ruta is probably the only one that utilizes it better because I don't think the one in the desert utilizes the twist around that much. It's a little bit more frustrating than it is fun, in my humble opinion. So what I did there, just a slight efficiency. I started moving the dungeon back to its main state before I trigger the terminal, and then trigger the terminal afterwards, just to save like a tiny bit of time because I need to walk out, and then I put it back on its side to run up this section, and then because the last terminal is quite high up. And there's where I think more recently I found a new way of doing this that I didn't implement until later runs, where I use like I go out the front of the dungeon and then walk up, and then you do a BIL up. And you need to be careful not to fall down that section. So that terminal puts us in the perfect place to go fight the boss of this dungeon. Before it was quite a pain in the ass to fight because you weren't allowed to use bomb arrows, which is what you used to quick kill all the other bosses. But this one with ancient arrows, again, very simple. So I will risk it with things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on the terminal that I used to trigger the boss fight, and then fire 4 shots straight into his eye. And then I'm going to switch the bow back just because Revali's bow is way too handy for the final boss fight. So I need to be really careful how I use it because I really don't want it to catch fire because that burns the durability. So in this phase you have to use a bomb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get somewhere where I can, once again, just jump off a ledge. and then just one cycle him like that. So, you know, with Ancient Arrows and Attack Up and Revali's Bow, none of the bosses are particularly difficult, I would say. Change my bow back.
Oops.
So for Master Sword and Dungeons, what I would do here,
I don't know how I
if
lost
I'm running
it,
that,
actually.
is this is where I would
That
go
was a
get the
much better
Master
boss
Sword,
fight.
and that's about a 5-minute split. It's not a particularly complex
I
glitch
did
to
mess
do
up
to get the Master
one
Sword.
thing,
But here, we're just going to go straight to the end boss.
thank you for the subscription, Arcade Castle. I appreciate it.
So from here, we can just BLSS straight over to the castle, and then the final boss fight is
God,
a
if I
matter
don't
of
get
minutes.
subscribers
It's
for
not very long,
soon,
with Ancient
it might
Arrows
be like a
and
2,
the
like,
final
20
boss.
or something.
There is a way of skipping the Ganon boss fight, but thanks to Ancient Arrows and Attack Up, it's actually slower than just fighting him normally. Because in the older run, we used to actually do the skip because it used to be a bit slower. Because we didn't normally have that many bomb arrows left. Well, I think 210 was the quickest time I got, actually. Maybe I was a bit quicker than I thought. I usually remember saving a good amount of time on the introduction of IST, but not as much as I would have liked. So again, we're going to set up a BLSS, and we're going to go from here straight over to the castle, which is actually a case of going round this little bit of the mountain. And then just drop straight into the chamber. You actually see my attack up will actually should last long enough to fight Ganon with as well. And you see the tower hasn't actually loaded in properly, but all the edge bits of it have. There we go. So the Ganon boss fight, if you don't do all the dungeons, you have to fight the 4 dungeon bosses, and then you have to fight Ganon at full health. If you do all the dungeon bosses, he goes down to half health. It's quite a unique feature they didn't bring back for Tears of the Kingdom. You don't get any benefit other than not fighting the dungeon bosses for the final boss for that. And we do end up in the situation again where the castle just hasn't loaded in properly. It's just all wall textured. So we actually do need to, again, we're going to stand under him. And just play about with the menus to force the game to load.
Come on, load.
Yeah, this bit of the game quite resource intensive, I suspect. And you don't have the Master Sword like I do on my back. So first thing I'm going to do is just shoot him straight in the face. And I'm just going to spam him with Ancient Arrows in the face from as close range as possible. For the next bit, there's 2 ways to take him out of this. You either need to parry him, or you need to use the champion ability. So there's the reason why we need to make sure we have 3. I need to make sure I hit him in the face as much as possible, but having 3 should be more than plenty for this. Yeah, and it's over like that. It's very, very quick boss fight. And then we're into the very final sequence, which is the light arrow sequence, which is... but can go wrong. It's gone wrong for me to the tune of a minute before now, but the hard part is over. It's usually at this point that you're like winding down, ready to finish the run. So for this section, sections of Ganon light up, and you have to fire the light arrow, which has a straight shot directly at him. It's not a particularly complex section, really, but there's a bit of waiting around. Like right now, I've got to wait around first of all for him to finish firing, and for Zelda to say that I need to go, and then we'll wait for the light points to show up, and then we need to just kind of cycle around him till we eventually take him down enough to hit the eye and finish the run. So again, I'm going to start just heading this way now. And this first ones, they just... You see, I'm going to cycle back around to the front of him now, just to avoid him turning too much. I'm waiting for him to do like these blast attacks. And I look great. So the next one's going to appear on his belly, so I'm going to use him. I'm actually just going to walk under him. And then I just need to wait for him to do his attack and then for it to appear, and I can just straight up shoot him, and then that's the last one. I do have the attack up still on, but it doesn't make any difference to this bit. It's just fixed damage per shot. Now you can do it with ancient arrows. It is possible, but it's significantly harder because the light arrow has a straight shot. So now I'm going to ride out in front of him for the final shot. So what you need to do here is his eye will open up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Rivali's Gale and wait till the eye opens up, and then I'm going to jump up and just do an air shot from there, and then that'll be the last thing that happens in the run. And that's time. So yeah, it's a fun run. I like that run a lot. It's interesting. It's got a lot of cool, interesting glitches to it that I think really do like make it very interesting to watch, and there's a lot to learn about it.
It's still 7 minutes slower. It should be like 4
yes.
or 5. It should be up to like a 5 on those goals.
Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully it all made sense. If you have any questions, let me know. My DMs are always open to questions. I love talking about speedrunning. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.